Growing up, I went to camp. My father must have known how important camp was to my mother, and he wanted us, his 4 daughters, to continue to know her by doing the things she had done when she was growing up. So, the summer of 1967, he sent my sister Lee and me to camp. We were 8 and 9 years old, respectively. I was in cabin B, and Lee was in cabin A, and it was just a few months after my mother had died. We went to Camp Desoto on Lookout Mountain in North Alabama. My father put me on the bus, crowded with noisy girls of all ages. Other than my younger sister Lee, I knew no one. I was 9 years old. The girls sang, they laughed, they shrieked and squealed. I sat in my seat quietly and looked on. The bus sailed along. The joyful noise continued, all except for in my heart. Fear and timidity reigned in my heart. But somewhere deep down, a small voice, a whisper, gave me comfort. Was it my mother's voice? Was she watching over me like a guardian angel? I never cried at camp. I picked out my bed and met my cabin mates. Homesickness never came. The small voice deep inside seemed to be with me always, but also the original feeling I had had when I visited camp for the first time with my mother. The feeling that I was safe. Maybe I was also feeling what my mother had felt when she had returned after all those years. Love came to me on the mountain. It reached out to me in song, in contact with nature, in the spirit of the others. It embraced my grieving soul. The love was so strong that ever afterward, the smell of damp woods or even of mildewed towels and rustled leaves and burning trash revived in my heart a longing for the mountain. We sang songs like, "With faith you can move mountains. These are common words but true. We're not quite a mountain, but he's moved us here to you." And "No man is an island, no man stands alone. Each man's joy is joy to me, each man's grief is my own. We need one another, so I will defend each man as my brother, each man as my friend." Summer after summer, I returned to camp with my sisters, always counting the days when it would be time to go back. This is what camp means for me, and it developed in me all the goodness of life. It taught me and educated me in ways that I knew what was right and wrong, and I could embrace that way. I could choose that way of goodness, of taking the narrow path instead of the grand boulevard. But I knew it, I experienced it, I lived it at camp. And so it was familiar with me to take the right road. And that's the road I wanted to take, so I learned that I could say no when I went to high school. And it gave me a sense of security, a sense of power in my being that carried me all the rest of my life and gave me the basis and the foundation. I feel like it gave me, my house was built on solid rock, not on sand that washes away. That's what camp gave me. I wasn't really a scholarly student back in the day, and book learning and abstract ideas became important to me much later. Maybe in college was when I finally began to really thrive on book learning and abstract ideas. But camp gave me a life, and it filled me with all of the goodness of nature, the creativity. It developed this part of my soul that no one had been able to tamper with since the death of my mother. So that is why I want to contribute to camp in some way. I've sent many young children from France back to America to discover the goodness of America by going to camp, boys and girls, to Alpine camp for boys and Desoto camp for girls. And they always come home with that inner light, that smile that comes from deep within, and I know where they have been. And I'm grateful that camp exists, and I hope that it will be there forever and ever for all the children like me that were so lost and had lived the tragedy of the death of my mother, and there I was given new life, love from my friends, and lifelong friends that I still have today, and a way to be, a code to follow, rules to follow, things that I hadn't had at school or at home. So voila, that's why I want to contribute to this camp experience.